DevOps. Okay, so this is a complex question and a lot of people argue about what DevOps is, but let me do my absolute best. When people create software, way back in the day, they used to use a methodology called waterfall. Some people call it water fail. And basically they would do things in this one slow progression. They would gather requirements for a very long time. They would design the application, then they would spend a lot of time coding it, and then they would test it, and then they would release it, and then they'd say, I'm done. They were never done. There were always problems. They weren't getting feedback from the clients. They ended up creating a thing that is not what the client meant that they wanted. There were a lot of problems with waterfall projects. So over time, a bunch of really smart people started doing things that were called Agile. And this Agile methodology of creating software was to do the waterfall thing way faster. The idea is that you would have requirements, but then you would build small amounts of code and you would do it in a sprint. So let's say you would create a feature and you would create a sprint. So that would be 2 or 3 weeks, let's say. And then you would all work really hard to make that. And then people would test it. And then if it looks good, then they would release it. Awesome. So now it's a few weeks to add new functionality. Cool, much better. We started getting better results from Agile. Awesome, awesome. So then DevOps. So when I was a software developer, I would write a whole bunch of code and then I would do something called throw it over the wall. So we would give it to the operations team to support the people that run the infrastructure and make sure everything is staying stable. So it's their job to make sure everything is safe and stable and keeps running. And it was my job to shake stuff up and add new features and change things constantly. And that resulted in this a lot. It resulted in us not always getting along very well. And so they would say, oh, she's throwing a bomb over the wall. And I would call it publishing my software. So then came DevOps. So DevOps is where dev and ops became friends. We started creating processes that made sure and automated testing that ensured that when I threw my code over the wall, and by that I mean ran it through my pipeline, that it would be solid and reliable and rugged. DevOps is also the idea that you want to automate as much as you can so that you can do the cool, awesome work and not do a bunch of toil, boring stuff, but also so that we can get feedback right away. The biggest problem with waterfall is that we wouldn't get feedback for up to a year. And in the meantime, things have drifted and changed and we're not sure what's happening anymore. We're creating the wrong product or the features aren't quite what they wanted. But by getting feedback all the time with DevOps and creating systems and automated processes to deliver that feedback, that was amazing. That was a huge step. Another thing was that we made sure that the entire process was as efficient as possible. And part of that meant using pipelines. So pipelines are automated software, sometimes called CI/CD pipelines for continuous integration and continuous delivery. And the idea of pipeline software is that it automates a whole bunch of tests and feedback and awesomeness. It will deploy your infrastructure because you're writing infrastructure as code in DevOps, and then it'll put your API on top and then put your application on top and then start it all up, run these automated tests to make sure everything looks pretty good, and then if it passes, on to the next area. You could do security testing automation, you can do reliability testing. There are so many amazing things you can do, and what this meant is that we can make changes fast. You can get new code out in minutes. It's amazing. There are some companies that publish 20 times a day. Think of this, we used to publish once a year. DevOps is fantastic. And so DevOps is a new way of developing software where we value continuous learning and experimentation and taking safe risks, where we value ensuring the efficiency of the entire system, not just your part, and very fast feedback, constant feedback, always re-verifying to make sure we've got it right, with the goals of creating solid, tough, rugged, secure software that delights our clients. That's DevOps.